Alrighty, everybody. It is currently Friday, January 23rd, 2026, and I'm coming at you live from the city of Nanking, where the Japanese did not commit any atrocities. You hear me? The Empire of Japan committed zero atrocities there, and anyone who says otherwise is a lying traitor. Um, This is Japanese week on the pod. I watched a chink flick this week, which is what I'm calling anime now. Like chick flick, but instead of chick flick, it's chink flick because they're Asians. Uh, yeah, you know it's good when you have to explain it. That's how you know a joke is really good, is when you have to pop out a 2,000 word essay to get the point across. Uh, which there are people that actually believe that shit that are like, no, it's funny if you think about it. Like, if you think about it, it's actually pretty funny. And like, that's not what funny is to me. Funny is like caveman brain sees like a fat person fall down an escalator and not even like registering it as an idea, not even processing it in any way, shape, or form. Just the reaction to it is laughing. Like that's what funny is to me. Like all these people being like, it's smart comedy. It's inflection, you know what I mean? It's a meta comedy of a double meta analysis or whatever. It's like, no, that's not funny. Comedic, I don't you could argue that, but it's not funny. Funny is whatever your dumb fucking, or at least whatever my dumb brain, whatever my dumb brain sends the fucking dopamine chemicals up in there and is like, dude, this is good. Let's go laugh at it. That's what funny is to me. And it's what it is to everyone. Because that's what funny is. Humorous, comedic, I don't know. Maybe those are different things, but funny is just a base level reaction. But anyway, anyway, I uh I watched this chink flick. It was called Perfect Blue, if I remember correctly. I think that was the name of it. Anime about this, obviously a young Oriental woman. Oriental, yeah, China woman. I don't know if that's the correct nomenclature. Or Chinaman woman. I don't know because Chinaman, it has the word China is it in it, but I think it works for all Orientals. I don't know. And then she's a woman, and then she's also a young woman. So would it be China woman or like China girl? I don't know, something like that. She was of the Orient, and so anyway, this movie, it's called Perfect Blue, and all the other characters are also Orientals as well. Uh, China people, is that like gender? I think gender neutral is China people. Um, and anyway, they're all in like China or Japan or Korea. Maybe it was Thailand. I don't fucking remember. Um, but it's this movie about this young girl, and you're hearing young girl, and you're hearing like Asian, specifically Japanese, and you're like, oh no, where does this go? What is this turn? She's not that young. She's like mid-20s, but I don't know. I would call that young. Uh, just because I'm also in my early 20s, but I think I'm old just because my receding hairline and like my sun damaged face, like your physical age that you physically are, I think reflects your mental age. Not to say I'm mature or anything or mature uh by any standards, but yeah, I do think if you have a receding hairline and like wrinkles on your face, you can't be like, yeah, I'm young. You just can't say that. It doesn't work like that. But anyway, young Oriental girl, like I said, all the other characters are China people as well, of the Orient like that. And they're going around China doing whatever they do in China. Uh, and this bitch is crazy. This is the whole movie, or is the bitch crazy? I guess that's what the movie's about. The movie isn't this bitch is crazy, it's is this bitch crazy? And spoiler alert, I guess I won't spoil it. I won't spoil it, but it's what you're gonna be thinking when you're watching this movie. You're gonna if you watch it, you're gonna be like, is this bitch crazy? I'm pretty sure she's crazy, but also it's like an animated movie, so you're like, this bitch might not be crazy, dude. I don't know what they got over there in animation land. Uh, but yeah, that's what the movie is. Watched it in Japanese, no no subtitles. I should do that. I should I should watch a movie with no subtitles in a language I don't speak. So any of the other ones besides English. I wonder I wonder how advanced of a movie I could watch in a language I don't speak and still be able to understand what's going on. Like this one, I don't think I'd be able to understand it, or like generally understand the plot of what's happening. I'd just be like, yeah, and then there's other I don't, I wouldn't be able to understand it. I could probably get through like Sesame Street or like Bluey or some shit. I don't know if they make Bluey in Japanese, but if they did, or like whatever language they make Bluey in, I don't know, Punjabi or whatever, I'll watch a Punjabi episode of Bluey and report back to you guys as to whether or not I can give you an accurate plot synopsis. I I think I could get pretty advanced with it though. Like I could definitely watch The Expendables or like some dumb movie like that in fucking Urdu or something. You know what I mean? And be able to understand it. Or I know people talk like especially like woke people are like the Jamaicans. They don't speak English. It's not just an accent, it's a whole separate language. I want to test out that theory. I want to see if there's any movies in like Jamaican Creole or Pidgin or whatever they call it and see if I can understand that. I think I could get through it. You know what I mean? Because every once in it's English. It's just English with a really thick accent and some fun words thrown in there. You know what I mean? And the Jamaicans are just so expressive with the way they speak and act that they don't even need to be speaking like a different version of English. You know what I mean? Like if a Jamaican was speaking Chinese, I feel like I could understand what that Jamaican's saying because they're just so like their faces, their hand movements, they're almost like Italians. You know what I mean? The Wops and the Jamaics are pretty similar in their level of physical emotional expression and even in their voice and stuff too. I think I could you know, I don't know if there's any Jamaicans out there that speak a little bit of Mandarin or whatever. I know there is Chinese Jamaicans, but I don't know if they're hitting like the wonton zhong or whatever. Uh, but if there is, I think I could probably, like, I could have a conversation with that person. If there's a Chinese Jamaican who doesn't speak English but understands English, I think I could have a pretty decent, you know, conversation with that individual. I don't think we'd be getting into like the meaning of the universe or whatever, but like I could give that motherfucker some directions, yeah, or I could understand directions from someone like that. You know what I mean? Bossa left, bossa right, whatever Jamaicans say. I was gonna talk more about this movie, but really nothing to say about it. I don't know. It was decent. I know everyone's like, no, you have to like really think about the movie to like see that it's good. And I've talked about this before, so I won't go too into it, but like, no, I don't, dude. I don't have to understand it to know Apocalypse Now is the best movie ever made. Guy has a dog and then kills a bunch of people. All right, enough said. Enough said. That's what Apocalypse Now is about the what? Uh, some friends go on a fun river cruise in Southeast Asia. They get a dog, and then they kill a bunch of people. And that they're just palling around, having a good old time. They are having a pretty decent time. You know, I, I I think a lot of those Vietnam War movies try to make it look like a bad time, and it's like, yeah, I'm sure like seeing a guy with no lower jaw trying to talk to you isn't that fun, but it seemed like the rest of it was pretty great, dude. Getting some fine Southeast Asia. Like if you're into like slender girls, like for me, like Vietnam obviously would rule. Just getting all that Vietnamese pussy would rule. But for me, I think I'd go like Venezuela or maybe like I don't know somewhere in Africa, somewhere where like the thick guys are at. You know what I mean? The big guys. I think if we went to war with Jamaica, the Jamaicans are my brothers. Like I said, it, I don't think I could kill a Jamaican. Even in a self-defense situation, I don't think I could kill a Jamaican. I think a Jamaican would be able to persuade me from killing them. You know what I mean? Just because I feel like it would be so expressive. Like, what sound does a Jamaican make when you shoot it? Yeah. What sound does a Jamaican make when you shoot it? It's got to be the most fun sound on the face of the planet. it's got to be something great. A Jamaican getting shot already in normal conversations. I feel like Jamaicans are making the most fun sounds in the world. But I feel like you shoot a Jamaican, you didn't even know a person could make that sound. And not in like a Lovecraftian, like eldritch horror way, but like in a very fun way. Like I didn't even know that like your gullet could move like that. That your Adam's apple could compress your voice box or whatever to make a noise like that. I feel like that's what would happen if you shot a Jamaican. But many Jamaicans have been shot. It's a surprisingly violent island. Um, but yeah, but yeah, like I was saying about Vietnam and Southeast Asia, like a war there, yeah, obviously the chicks there are hot, but I like them a little bit thicker. Not big into the slender ones, but really doesn't fucking matter. I'm not getting laid either way, so does it fucking matter? You know, like I said, it's wartime, so it's not exactly consensual. If I'm getting laid in wartime, you know, it's war. It's like I just killed a bunch of guys. You're telling me I can't, you know what I mean? And we're gonna talk about Ukraine and stuff later, and, you know, the impact of that war has on women or whatever, but I don't know. It, I get it. Like, if you kill a guy in a war that is like a self-defense situation, I guess there's no such thing as like self-defense rape. Like, no one's ever been raped in self-defense that I can think of. Is that possible? What is a situation where you are raping in self-defense? I'm like, if it's like a wrestling, like okay, so guy pulls up on you with a gun, you disarm him, guns on the ground, classic movie moment. Both of you guys hit the deck and start wrestling for it. And he gets his hands on the gun first, and he's got a tight grip on this thing. You already got him once, you're not getting him again. You know what I mean? Fool me can't get fooled again. He's got two hands, double fisting this fucking Glock or whatever he has, and you're not ripping it out of his hands, but you are like on top of it. You know what I mean? Like you have him pinned down, and you're like, put down the fucking gun. And he's like, no, dude, I'm not gonna put down the gun. I'm robbing you, or whatever his mission is. You know, whatever he's trying to accomplish. And you say, put down the gun, and he says no, but you're on top of him. You know what I mean? He's prone, and then you're prone on top of him. Like if you slid down his pants and started raping him in the butt to try to get him to drop the gun, I think that's self-defense rape. I think that could you would get cleared of that in the court of law. Because it's like I asked him to put down the gun, he said no. Like I can't risk getting up and having him point the gun at me. So something's got to be done about this. And I started digging it up. You know what I mean? No lube. Or I guess I should start carrying lube. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people conceal carry guns or weapons or pepper spray or whatever. You should start conceal carrying lube because I think that and being like it's for self-defense. Instead of pepper sprayers, it should be like baby oil sprayers. You know what I mean? Because it's like if you have to get into a rape self-defense situation, like especially if you make the guy finish, I feel like that's you're getting cleared. Like Snoop Dogg, he was on trial for like self-defense gun, like shooting a guy or whatever. Uh, but I think if you like use lube, you take care of him afterwards. You know what I mean? Like you snuggle with him afterwards and like bite his ear and kiss his neck or whatever. And you're like, "How was that? Did you like that?" And you like make him come and stuff. I think that like you're kind of clearing the court of law. Obviously, if you come, it's still rape, but I think if you really take care of him, you know what I mean? If you were like, hey, go clean yourself up afterwards, give him a towel and all that stuff, let him take a shower, soap up with some Old Spice or whatever, I think that's a self-defense rape, and I think you could potentially argue that in court, you know? I don't know if a precedent has been set for this. I know like that's a big thing in the court of law is like lawyers will refer to old cases where like a client was innocent when like the same situation happened, and they'll be like, "This is the precedent that has been set, so you have to find my uh, client innocent." I know lawyers that do that, so we might have to set the precedent on this one. If you've ever been in a self-defense rape situation, that's what my Better Call Saul is going to be. You know, when he does like those shitty ads or whatever and he points at the screen, mine's gonna be, did you have to rape someone in order, and that's all the law practice is gonna be. You know, and I'm not gonna be taking people who did actual rape or who have been accused of doing actual rape. It's just self-defense rape. If you, if you, are if you've ever been in a self-defense rape suit, and I'm sure someone has, or at the very least, like a sexual assault. Like if a guy comes up on you with a knife and like puts it to your throat, and you like grab his cock and balls and like get it up in one fist and start clenching it and be saying, "I'll go chimp mode on you, motherfucker. I'll rip this thing right off." It's I I feel like that's a situation that's happened before. It's been prosecuted, you know, and so I think we could use that as the precedent. You know what I mean? Browning versus the state of Virginia or whatever. Jamal Browning was had a knife held to his throat, and he was being asked for his wallet, and he grabbed the robber's cock and balls, and they were pretty small. You know what I mean? Because when a motherfucker's robbing you, that's like high adrenaline. He's like, "Oh, let's go! I'm gonna rob this motherfucker." So I think his cock and balls would be pretty small. That would be the hardest thing about a rape self-defense situation, is that the actual penetration, and this is why I'm saying you got to carry a lube on you, because the actual penetration into the to the man's butt is probably going to be the most difficult task. You know, because I don't mean to be racist, but statistically, people who rob other people tend to sag their pants a little bit. You know what I mean? They tend to have sag. Hey, is what it is. Uh, or I should say, people who sag their pants, they're more likely to rob you. And so I don't think getting the pants down would be the hardest part. I think the pucker would be so tight because of the adrenaline, and obviously because you're raping him, but like just like the adrenaline would ramp it up to like an extra level. Like, you know how they say moms when they get adrenaline and like their kid's trapped under a car or whatever and they lift the car off the kid to save the kid when the car's on fire, some shit like that. I feel like that would happen with the asshole, where the adrenaline would be so high in him that the asshole becomes even more extra tight than during a regular rape. So I would say factor that into your tactical training, you know, because you're probably going to be like, all right, self-defense rape situation, I'll just grab a fleshlight and kind of put it in the position it would be in during a self-defense rape situation. But you can't just do that. You have to like tie some rubber bands around it or something to make it extra tight to accurately to accurately represent how tight a man's asshole would be while you're self-defense raping him. I, I, I really think that's what the tactical preparation for that situation would be in. And look, I'm sure there's people out here doing it. Like I'm sure the Navy SEALs do that shit because that's what makes like a Navy SEAL a Navy SEAL is that they're prepared for every single situation. And so I'd say hit up like Goggins or like one of these podcast Navy SEALs and be like, hey, I know you guys know how to do this. Uh, teach me your ways, you know. And they're probably like Navy SEALs are hard ass motherfuckers, so they can probably do it without the lube. You're gonna need the lube. All right, trust me. It's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. Especially in this especially in this situation, because you don't know, regardless of the tightness of the asshole, you don't know what you're dealing with. It could be extra hairy down there, literally. There could be like a thick forest of hair that you're gonna have to get through. Um, and Yeah. So you're gonna like want to try to sharpen the end of your penis somehow. There's like a bunch of penis exercise gurus on the internet, so I'm sure one of them has like a lesson on how to sharpen your cock, and you're gonna want to really follow that guy's word. And it's kind of one of the best situations for having a small dick. You know, like being a shorter dude, it has like a fair amount of advantages. You can fit in small spaces, you're really never uncomfortable, but having a small dick does not have a ton of advantages. The big one is stealth, obviously, in terms of hiding a boner when you're in public. But other than that, there's not a lot of other advantages. But this situation does have that advantage, especially if you know how to work it. If you're a motion of the ocean type of guy, and you know how to work your little ass cock, and you can make the guy your raping in the self-defense situation come, then that's that's going to be the real advantage here, I think. And you're going to be able to get in there easier, is what I'm saying with the smaller cock. The insertion is going to be easier. When when the Navy SEALs went to kill Bin Laden, they didn't take the biggest plane they had. They took a few little helicopters so they could sneak right in there, push in, and then get out. So that's the advantage of having a small penis in that situation, is that you're going to be able to get in and out. He's not even going to notice. And then once you're in there, then you can start to do the work. You know what I mean? And hey, you're already in there. Make it nice. Tickle the balls a little bit. If you can, give him a reach around, give him a few tugs. That'll help you in this situation. Um, and if you get hard in a rape self-defense situation, once again, you're the guy on top in this situation. I'm not defending someone who got raped in a self-defense situation. I'm defending the raper, quote unquote. Uh, if you get hard in that situation, what does it say about you? You know what I think it says? Dedication. You've trained for this moment. You are a person who prepares for the worst, and so when the worst happens, you're prepared. Uh, you could be a Navy SEAL. You could be above a Navy SEAL. You know, you could you could be in one of those fucking groups that like the White House directly commands or the CIA directly commands that we don't even know about. I I really think that should be the recruiting grounds for those super secretive elite special units is people who are heterosexual, you know what I mean? Put him through the gauntlet, see if he folds, you know, see if he actually is gay or not. And if he turns out to be straight and he made a guy come in a self-defense rape situation, then you got to recruit him to that because that's a different type of person. That's someone who's above the rest, above the rest. If it's cold outside, the cold, there's just so many factors here that we're gonna have to deal with. I don't know if anyone, I'll look it up after this, but I don't know if anyone has ever really fully looked at this situation from top to bottom and tried to figure out, exactly what was going on. How do you factor in the cold to this? How do you factor in obviously size? Like if you got a big mamba, if you got a big black mamba or a big white mamba, let's be honest here, there's not any big yellow mambas out there, so a big black mamba or a big white mamba, uh, how how do you angle yourself? You know what I mean? Because you're gonna have to lift up a little bit to get the tip in. How do you do that? How do you do it with no hands? You know, it's easy for a woman to do it with no hands, but a man to do it with no hands, it's like that docking scene in Interstellar. Adjust, adjust for rotation. Jarvis, get my penis into this man's asshole. It's difficult, dude. With no hands, especially when he's fighting back, it's like playing whack-a-mole. Trying to smack it in there, dude. Um, but yeah, yeah. And it's cold outside right now. It's real cold. So if you hear a fan in the background, that's my space heater. I do have like a radiator space heater in here, that my roommate just left. Um, but it's a piece of shit, dude. Like those things don't work at all. I need forced air heating. I need that shit that like dries out your nose. I need my nose to be caked in scabs and blood because of how dry the air is in the room from the forced heating. That's what I need in terms of heat. Like the radiator, it ain't doing the trick. So if you're hearing that, that's what that is. And also, this is a very low quality mic that I'm using. I'm using my gaming headset mic, uh, because I forgot my actual one at my parents' house. So deal with it, dude. And no one's listening anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. But is what it is. Get over it. All right, get over it. Start thinking about self-defense rape. All right, get over the mic quality and start thinking about how you're gonna penetrate a man's butt, you know, or a woman's. It could be hey, we don't discriminate here. It's probably gonna be a man's though. You're probably thinking it's gonna be like some sexy like BBL robber or whatever. Some BBL demon is gonna pull up on you and try to rob you, and you're gonna be able to be in that situation. No, it's probably not gonna be that. And that's another thing you have to factor in, dude. There are guys out there with incredibly fat asses. There are guys out there with dump trucks, dude. Uh, so how are you gonna get past that? Like I said, if you're working with a small one, I'm right there with you. How how do we do a good cheek spread with no hands to be able to get the dick in there? How do we deal with all these variables, all these factors? And I think that's why we need the Navy SEALs, just because they're used to that shit. They're used to really analyzing something, breaking it down, going through all the different scenarios that could possibly arise out of the situation. So that's what we're gonna need for this. But it is cold as fuck in my room right now. It's hot and cold at the same time, and I think they called it a stroke or maybe multiple sclerosis. I don't know, but maybe it's because I'm wearing a t-shirt and then shorts and then jeans on top of the shorts. Maybe that's why it's hot and cold at the same time. But it's mostly just a lot of cold. It's been very cold lately. Everyone's talking about like the snowstorm of the century. Been done to death already, being people being like this happens every year. But it is very funny that like people are like, oh, it's gonna be super cold, which means it's gonna snow a lot. And it's like that's not how that works, dude. Like people being like, oh, it's gonna be real cold tomorrow. Do you think we're gonna get some snow? It's like those two things have nothing to do with each other. You know what I mean? Or I guess you can't have snow without cold, but just because it's cold doesn't mean there's gonna be snow. Like people think just because it's gonna be super cold because of like the Arctic blast or whatever it is, that there's gonna be snow. And it's like that just because it's warm, that doesn't mean there's gonna be rain. That's not that's not how that works. But I don't know. I don't know how I'm wishing for the snow. I don't know if I want there to be a lot or none. With Kansas, the good thing about snow in Kansas is that it lasts usually for like the perfect amount of time. Because I lived in Minnesota for a year and like the snow starts to fall in like November. And then that snow that fell doesn't melt until like June or whatever. That's how snow looks in Minnesota. But in Kansas, it snows, and then you get like a nice week, maybe 2 weeks of snow at the very most, and then you'll have like a random 70-degree day, and it'll melt. That's the good thing about Kansas snow. It doesn't snow a ton down here, but the snow remains for the perfect amount of time, because you don't, it's a novelty. That's what snow is ultimately. Ultimately, snow is a novelty. You don't want it around forever. It's like a sunset. Sunsets are so cool because they only last for like 15 minutes or whatever. I don't know if I've ever sat through a full through a full sunset before. I don't know how long they last, but it's not very long. Okay, I know that much about sunsets, and that's what makes them so great, is that it only lasts for a little bit. Snow being on the ground for 6 months straight, it's just like that's the ground now. It's just like seeing grass or dirt or gravel or whatever. It's not, there's nothing novel or fun or interesting about it because it's just the ground. If you see it for 6 months straight, it's it just becomes the same as like grass or dirt or whatever. Um, but yeah, it is very cold. I don't think they turned the heat up at all in the in the fucking in the dorm building. I don't think they turned it up even a degree. There's that. I can feel it. I can feel it like just seeping through the window. And I don't think it's that cold in here. I think it's maybe like 65 degrees, but something people don't talk about enough is the difference between inside temperature and outside temperature. Like outside temperature, I'd say anything from like 50 to like 80 degrees is comfortable. Like I can chill all day in any temperature from 50 to 80 degrees if I'm outside. If I'm inside, dude, it better be between 70 degrees and 70.1 degrees. You know what I mean? Like I don't know what it is. It's not like an activity thing because even when I go to the gym, I still have the same feeling of being like it's just uncomfortable in here. It's either uncomfortably warm or uncomfortably cold. Even if I'm working out, I'm still thinking the same thing. Um, so yeah, inside warm versus outside, or inside temperature versus outside temperature. I don't know why they're so different. I don't know if the sun activates something in you, activates a blood memory in you or something like that, but they are two distinct things, you know? Like I can work outside all day in like 80-degree heat, and it's like, yeah, I'm sweating or whatever, but it's not, I don't know, it's just not that bad. But if I'm inside and it's 80 degrees, someone is gonna have to die for that, you know? Someone's gonna have to die. It's the fake air. It does something to your skin and your mind, and it really starts to get to you like that. Um, but yeah, I don't know. It's been cold outside. That's a winter though. People are like, "Oh, it's it's the same thing when people are like, Jesus fucking Christ, it's so hot outside." And it's like, "Yeah, dude, it's summer. That's how the seasons how seasons work, dude. Don't like it? Move to the fucking equator. That's just how seasons work. It gets cold in the winter and hot in the summer. I don't I've never been a big weather complaining guy, unless it's like rain. Not a big rain driving in the rain. Every other time during the rain, I'm fine with it, but driving in the rain absolutely sucks. Even though I just talked about the weather for 5 minutes or whatever, yeah, I I'm gonna sweat, dude. It's summer. That's how summer works. Don't like it? You shouldn't weigh 300 pounds. I think that's the main reason why people in America constantly complain about the weather and specifically the heat. It's not the heat. I don't think global warming is real. I think people are just getting so, especially in America, and it really around the world, are just getting like so fat that it just seems different than it is. And if you're fat, and I've been fat before, I've been 80 pounds heavier than I am right now before. I've done it. It's uncomfortable all the time. It's not the weather. The weather isn't changing. You are morbidly obese, and that your body's not supposed to be that, right? Like that's how that whole situation works. It's not it's not the fucking carbon in the air or whatever. You're 400 pounds. That's why you get comfortable in the summer, dude. That's why you think it's extra cold outside, is because no jackets fit you, because your arms are 19 inches and there's no muscle. That's that's how that all works. By the way, if you didn't know. A lot of people deny global warming because the science or the this or the that or whatever, or they say it's like the way the world is supposed to be. I don't believe that. I think it's just purely the fatness. Because you got to think about it, dude. When do people start talking about global warming? The 60s, dude. When did people start getting fat? You know what I mean? Especially in America. In the 60s. It's when like Twinkies and shit came out. Everyone was feeding their kids, the lobbies were being like, you need to feed your kids Little Debbie snacks and Coke for them to grow up to be big and strong. That's what the food pyramid was in the 60s. That's when people started getting a little chunky. So I think that's what it is. 60s, 70s, that's about global warming. People started talking about it, and it's also when people started getting fat. So I think that's what it is. Everyone always says the summers are worse, especially during global warming. I don't think that's the truth. I think you're just 500 pounds, and that's why it's worse. And that's why global warming is a scam, dude. Another instance of the fats trying to pull a scam on us. Fats are always trying to pull scams, constantly. Oh, healthy food is too expensive, dude. There's raccoons in the dumpster. All right, how many raccoons live in this goddamn neighborhood? Go eat one. Oh, I can't afford food. I can't afford rent, dude. How do you think your ancestors lived? I don't know what joke I was trying to make there. Um, yeah, I think it's another instance of a fat scam. And the fats they're a scamming group of people. Like I said, I've been a fat before. That's why fats are so funny, is because humor and funniness is like a sort of shield that you put up to deflect from like who you truly are. Um, no, I don't know if that's true. That sounds like some dumb bullshit, you'd hear on TikTok about like trauma or whatever. It's like if you're funny, you have trauma. And it's like, well, first of all, most of you aren't funny. Like that's like you think you're funny, you're not funny. And I know I'm not funny, but I know what funny is. You know what I mean? Coaches don't play. Everyone being like, "Oh, you're talking about what's funny and what's not funny, but you're not funny." All right, you think Bill Belichick can throw a 50-yard pass? No, he can't. But he knows how to coach a motherfucker to throw a 50-yard pass. All right? So don't come to me with that bullshit about being not funny and try to talk about what's funny. Coaches don't play. I'm a funny coach. All right. Um, but what was it? The fat scams. Yeah, the fats are just a scamming group of people, just inherently. Everyone thinks it's the Jews, but it's actually the fats. The fats are the real scammers in society, you know, because the hot people don't have to spend the time to actually think about the scam. Like a hot person might be a scammer. A hot person might be scamming you, but they're just as unaware of the scam as you are, right? Because they're hot. They don't have to think. The hot people don't have to think ever about anything. They just don't. And so that's why hot people aren't scammers, but fats always are. Um, yeah, just another instance, dude. Another instance of lookism in society. It's big in the looks maxing community right now. You know, the looks maxing community for a while was focused on smashing your face with a ball peen hammer to get bigger cheekbones or whatever, or to get a chin. You know, you take the claw hammer and you bash your chin with it, and all of a sudden you're looking like that fucking Fairly Odd Parents comic book character, the Crimson Chin, dude. That's what it used to be about. Now it's about how society treats hot people better, and it's like, yeah, yeah, they do. Hot people get treated better in society. Just is what it is. I don't know. Maybe smashing your face with a hammer will help. Maybe it won't, dude. Maybe getting a fucking DeWalt cordless, brushless drill and getting in there with a fucking 3/8 inch drill bit. That's what's gonna help you. Maybe not. The looks maxing community, dude, is is done. It's over with. It's gone too mainstream. You know what I mean? That guy Clav or whatever, he's gone too mainstream. Uh, Smashing your face with a hammer, that's what normies do now. Real looks maxers, they're taking power tools to that thing. They're whipping out the Sawzall and being like, how do I make my eyes blue? How do I get hunter eyes? That's that's what the looks maxing community is trying to figure out now. You know, how can I use an excavator to get a better jawline? That's what the real looks maxers are on now. Smashing your face with a hammer is that's last season. That's last season. All right. Uh, but yeah, speaking of that guy, Clav or whatever, Clavicular, just what a piece of shit. All of them, dude. Nick Fuentes, all those guys, and it's just so funny that like now I feel like the right is kind of doing like the woke left thing of like taking the moral high ground or whatever, but like all the the heroes on the right now are like the biggest pieces of shit in the world. It was the same with the left for a while now, but I don't know. I feel like they've kind of isolated themselves, but I feel like the right is kind of being introduced as like the new like woke right, like moral high ground type of thing. I feel like that's what's happening right now, but they're all gigantic like scammer scum pieces of shit like the people on the left were, like I was saying. They're all like who are the heroes on the right? It's like Nick Fuentes, a gay twink who's literally in the CIA, Andrew Tate, who's an OnlyFans pimp, and then some guy who does meth and smashes his face with a fucking ball peen hammer. Like those are like the mainstream heroes of the right, which is why everyone's going to Christianity. You're the two options, the two fields of play are like guy who is a pedophile and says you need to be a pedophile too, and then a guy who does meth and also tricks 18-year-olds into being his OnlyFans whores. Those are those are the two political paths nowadays, which is why so many people are going to religion, you know? It's not because of like the moral degeneracy or whatever. The moral degeneracy is it's existed for a while. It's just everyone's going to Christianity now because it's just like all the people. I was gonna say all the real people, but Jesus is a real dude. Uh, but like all of the people who are alive right now are just you can't you know you can't uh look up to them as heroes of your life or whatever. God damn. Yeah, that's some dry ass air I've been choking on, dude. That shit's making that's turning my throat into I'd say some 50 grit sandpaper. I feel like 50 grit's that's some pretty rough sandpaper. You can see the individual pieces of sand on that thing. I was gonna say molecules of sand. Um, but yeah, it's turning my throat into some raw shit, dude. If someone was to try to rape my throat right now, if someone was to try to forcefully and sexually take me orally, it would not end well for them. They'd come out with a rug burn on that thing because that is some very, very dry air. Um, yeah, I don't know if it's the cold or if it's this $20 heater, fan heater thing that's melting the plastic as it heats the fan. I don't know which it is, but something about something, something's fucking up my throat. But this is current events. We're gonna talk about some more fun ones. I don't know. This one was on the front page, but it was just so fun. I was like, I feel like I have to talk about it. Then we're gonna talk about an obscure one, and then we're gonna talk about Russia, Ukraine, just because that's what I wanted to talk about. But this one was on the front page of the news or whatever. It was like the first thing that popped up when I Googled news, which by the way, that's what I do for this. To find the news articles, I just like Google news, but half of them are from like academic, like weird. They're not like academic papers or whatever, being like, we discovered a new type of bacteria or whatever. It's like, I don't know why it does this, but it'll be like, it'll be like I can't even explain it. It'll be like the newspaper of a college talking about something not related to academics. It'll be like we got a new water fountain today, and it's like the second page that pops up when I do like the Google when I just Google news. It's very weird. Uh, yeah, like this one's from Mount Prospect, Illinois. Pretty sick name for a city. Uh, yeah, state of emergency declared in Laurel, Maryland. Yeah, it's very it's very funny what pops up. Yeah, CDFW News, California Department of Fish and Wildlife, commercial Dungeness crab fishery to open in Humboldt County. This is page 3. And then right below that, it's talking about like Border Patrol or whatever. I don't know. I guess that's better than Googling news and having it all be like, you're gonna die today. All the black people are gonna die because Trump is president. Your kid's gonna get molested by a drag queen because Biden won the election. I guess it's better than that. I'd rather hear about Dungeness crabs than drag queen story hour. Both are equally interesting. A Dungeness crab and a drag queen are both like as alien to me as each other. Actually, no, drag queens aren't that alien. It is pretty funny. It's people. This is like a weird thing that people have been doing. I feel like especially lately. I don't know if it's just become more mainstream or whatever, but trying to make like everything like, no, it's serious. It's like the people who say like all art is political or whatever. It's like, no, dude, not the shit I do. That when I draw when I draw a dude in class with like a giant nose and two tiny eyes that are on the nose, there's nothing political about that. When I'm like bored in fucking, aquatic biology or whatever, there's that doesn't I'm not saying anything about the state of the world. I'm doodling because I'm bored. It's like that whole greater thing. It's like, no, you need to take drag seriously. And it's like, do they take themselves seriously? Like that's it, they it's like definitely a hobby that you have to be very into, I feel like. Like if you're gonna do it, there ain't no halfway being a drag queen. But like it's not a serious thing. They're playing dress up. They're playing the and be, they're dressing like clowns, literal clowns. Like they're putting like bigger fucking red noses, like literally. It looks like clown makeup that they're doing, which is fine. You could do it. It's fun. It's like a caricature of a woman. And people will be like, this is actually about Bill Clinton in the Medina, Arkansas incident when Bill Clinton killed those two kids who saw people smuggling cocaine into Medina, Arkansas, uh, by his order. That's what being a drag queen is about. It's like, no, dude, I think it's about dressing up goofy and having a fun time. And then maybe some people use it to get into the classroom and then have a fun time there, if you if you know what I mean. But for the most part, I think it's about gay people just letting loose, doing some meth, and spreading some AIDS. I feel like that's what it's about, and that's wish them all the best, dude. The gays have been, yeah. I don't know. I was just gonna say, I think the gays they're starting to, I think, calm down a little bit. I feel like the '80s, the thing that really caused the AIDS epidemic in the '80s wasn't the fact that, that's when the government chose to release it from the lab or whatever. I think it's more of just like the 80s, 60s and then 80s especially when like being gay started to become like you weren't gonna get lynched for it anymore. You know? Like, yeah, people would still call you a faggot and throw a can of Pepsi at your head or whatever, but like, you're not ending up in a ditch at, in the 80s for being gay. Maybe somewhere, maybe in like fucking Biloxi, Mississippi or whatever, you're ending up in the ditch for being gay, but for the most part, people started to, they started to relax a little bit. It went from, it went from white Emmett Till, just getting shoved in a locker or whatever. And so the gay dudes, they were just all this repression just fucking ripped the chains off, and they were like, "Come on, let's go! I'm gonna fuck everybody." And like that's what really made the AIDS epidemic big. And then I think it's starting to calm down a little bit now. I think the AIDS epidemic, the gays are starting to be like, all right, it's been about a good 40 years now. The whole gay marriage thing. I don't know. I feel like dudes just don't want to get married to each other. I feel like like getting married is just always more of a chick thing to me. Uh, Especially if you're gay, it's like we're not gonna have kids or anything. We're fucking, I don't know, I don't know, unless you end up having a bump baby, unless you end up shitting out a little baby somehow. Um, yeah, but anyway, I think that's why the gays have been going so crazy. Anyway, this is our first news article. Like I said, you probably heard about this one. I'm sure it's big on Twitter or whatever, but this is from AP News. I think that's Associated Press, but this is former Olympic snowboarder on FBI's most wanted list is arrested in Mexico facing drug charges, dude. A Gump. The modern day Gump, dude. I've been learning a lot about Gumps lately. You know, we talked about that guy who did like the Fiji coup, and then this episode that I'm going to be probably doing tomorrow or Sunday, uh, it's a Japanese Gump. This guy's the Japanese Gump. I think he even did more than Gump, but this guy's a nice modern day Gump snowboarder. He went from he went from the snow to the snow, if you know what I mean. He didn't stop hitting the slope, brother. He went from that powder to that powder. Um, yeah, but you wouldn't expect that. Actually, I think you would expect that from snowboarding. Like snowboarding is it's one of like those adrenaline rush sports. You know what I mean? Like you have to be maybe not like a full psychopath, but you have to be like bordering onto it. You have to be like you do recognize that other humans have emotions and feelings and stuff like that, but you kind of like give less of a shit than a normal person. Like that's what you have to be in order to be a snowboarder. Especially like a professional one, just flying down a mountain at 90 miles an hour. You gotta have a little bit of uh, you have to have a less precious view of life to be a snowboarder is what I'll say. Not just hitting Aspen and then like going and getting drunk next to a fireplace or whatever. I'm talking about like the type of shit this guy was doing. Like those dudes who ski jumping, you that's a sport for rich sociopaths. You know, like that's what you have to do. That's what you have to be in order to be a good one of those. But this is Ontario, California. So former Canadian Olympic snowboarder Ryan Wedding. Let's get a look at this fool. See what he looks like. A top FBI fugitive accused of moving some 60 tons of cocaine from Latin America. I didn't even know it was cocaine. It was just a guess, dude. From Latin America into the United States annually and orchestrating several killings, was arrested in Mexico and then flown to California, officials said Friday. Let's get a good look at this guy. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. This picture that I'm looking at is definitely from his Facebook. He's sitting in bed, low quality camera. This might be less than 480p. This isn't even an Android. This is one of those things they give you when you sign up for like Cricket Wireless or whatever. And he has like a shitty chest tattoo of like a lion, I think. Something like that. Yeah. Yeah. He's a little bit fat. I would have liked it if he was a little bit more in shape. He might just be jacked. He might just be a little bit jacked. Decent looking guy overall, I'll say. Nice dad bod, a real dad bod. Not like whatever. Dad bod. Anyway, so Wedding 44 turned himself in Thursday at the U.S. Embassy in Mexico City. FBI Director Kash Patel said his arrest came after U.S. investigators worked with authorities in Mexico, Canada, Colombia, and the Dominican Republic for more than a year. No, it, that's that's a retarded idea. Being like, yeah, it's because of all the investigative work that we did. No, someone said that they were going to skin him alive, and he was like, hey, I don't want to be skinned alive. I'd rather be in jail. Like that's why this guy turned himself in. He didn't turn himself in because he was like, oh, they're breathing down my neck. Dude, he's in Mexico. It's literally a cartel state down in Mexico. He was not worried about getting arrested. The drug kingpins aren't worried. Yeah, they got El Mayo, uh, but that's he probably turned himself into just for the fun of it. Like this guy's 44. He he had a few good years left in him running that thing. He wasn't El Mayo, going around in a walker or whatever. He was 44 years, or he is 44 years old. He was just like, yeah, they said they were gonna turn my eyeballs inside out. I don't know how that works, but I don't want it to happen. And so he turned himself in. So officials say Wedding moved cocaine between Colombia, Mexico, Canada, and Southern California, and they believed he was working under the protection of the Sinaloa cartel. Authorities said his aliases included El Jefe, Sick, Public Enemy, and James Conrad Kin. Is that like a person from a movie or some shit? I definitely would have called this guy Johnny Utah. I mean, he's literally. Oh, I guess that was just a name he made up. Yeah, I would have called him Johnny Utah. He's literally the motherfucker from Point Break. He's hitting the slopes with a fucking bag full of cocaine or whatever. It's a fun old time. And then the second article is from The Nation. I've never heard of this magazine before, but meet the Alaska student arrested for eating an AI art exhibit. A conversation with Graham Granger, whose combination of protest and performance art spread beyond campus. AI chews up and spits out art made by other people. So that's why he did it. That was his, which, I mean, to be fair, it said when I looked this up that he was eating it, but it's not eating if you don't swallow. That's what I always say. If you don't swallow, it's not eating. Like everyone's always like, "Oh, she's a cum eating hoe or whatever." I, she might be a hoe, but she's not a cum eating hoe because it ain't eating unless you swallow. And that's the thing about eating pussy, dude. Unless you're swallowing the squirt, you ain't a real eater unless you're swallowing the squirt or the cream or whatever it happens to be. Which by the way, that's 50-50. If you've ever wondered, like statistically, who's the squirters and who's the creamers, it's for my research that I have conducted. I'll be sure to credit my my research partner by giving out his full legal name, social security number, and address. Uh, but yeah, it's about 50-50, in case we're wondering, between creamers and squirters. So anyway, this guy's name is Graham Granger. Very good name. Very good name. Looks like he's from Alaska. He has the cold, dead eyes of someone raised in a state that is as cold and dead as he is. So yeah, Alaska looking guy. Fat, but like a solid fat. If he's not from Alaska, then I don't know what else to say. So, as the use of artificial intelligence in art is hotly debated, one student at the University of Alaska Fairbanks took matters into his own mouth. On January 13th, Graham Granger, a film and performing arts major, was arrested for criminal mischief when he ripped the art made with the help of AI from the wall of the university's gallery and ate it in, quote, a reported protest, according to the police report. He was tearing them up and just shoving them in as fast as he could. Yeah, this is a big boy. He knows how to get some, not a big boy. I'd guess 3 bills at least, depending on how tall he is. He looks like a tall feller. He might be above 3 bills. He knows how to put it down. So he was tearing them up and just shoving them in as fast as he could, said Ali Martinez, a witness to the event. Like when you see people in a hot dog eating contest. Do you think he was going full hot dog eating contest? Do you think he was like doing that shit where they dip it in the water and then they just like shove it in with like their middle finger or whatever? I wonder if our boy Graham was doing that. I fully support this. This is fucking awesome. According to the police, uh, according to the police estimate, around 57 of the 160 images on the wall were destroyed. In the exhibit, artist Nick Dwyer expressed his struggle with AI psychosis, during which he says he fell in love with a chatbot that was acting as his therapist. A series of Polaroid pictures depicts the chatbot himself and other versions of them combined. He said the bot presented his Jungian shadow. So I guess that's a reference to Carl Jung. I don't know what that means, which is the repressed, often negative yet creative part of one's personality. Yeah, dude, it's not the creative part of your personality if you did not make the art. That's that's what I have to say about our boy Nick Dwyer here. Yeah, it's you're not expressing yourself creatively. You're typing four words into a machine and then having it do all the work for you. And look, I've been known I've been known to ask AI a few questions. That's all I'll say. I'm still in college. I've been known to ask AI a few questions, but it's like I'm not taking credit for it. You know what I mean? Like if someone asked me, "Did you write that?" I'd be like, Dis "Define right." Like that's what my response would be. So it would have been an awesome performance piece that literally encapsulates the problems with AI art and artists, said Dwyer. But he didn't accept Granger's protest as an excuse to destroy his work. Once again, dude, it's not your work. You didn't work to do this. What is this guy saying? You didn't work. You pressed print after after something else made the images for you. It's just crazy. Uh, but anyway, he said the act was akin to slashing someone's tires to protest the oil industry. Yeah, dude, if you slash the tires of like an oil CEO or whatever, like the CEO of ExxonMobil, then yeah, that's a protest of the oil industry. What is this guy talking about? He initially wanted to press charges because Granger's acts violates the sanctity of the gallery, but changed his mind, dropping the charges. The state is still proceeding with the case. Dwyer thinks there has to be room for new technology in the art space. Okay. This guy's just trying to outwoke our boy Granger, our boy Graham Granger, and I'll say I stand with Graham. You know, it's like, yeah, if you want to use it to like make a clip art or whatever, fine, I guess, but like being like, this is my work. No, you don't understand how hard I worked. You didn't work hard for it, dude. You had like a mental breakdown for a few weeks and then you decided to have something else do all like if this guy made art in an AI style, you know how AI has like that weird just like all the weird shit it does? If he did that, okay. Like that's a fair point. But uh he was literally just like plugged a few things into a plugged a few words into this chatbot. Um And so our final thing's about Ukraine, but I just more so wanted to talk about Ukraine, so I had an article about it, but all the articles are always the same. It's like Ukraine's going to gain back all its territory, and then like next week it's like no, they're not. But there does seem to be this idea out there, especially amongst I think particularly the left, but I feel like a lot of people in America that like Russia's losing the war, and like I think one of the things that people don't understand about war is how cultural it is. Like war is it's a very cultural thing. You know what I mean? Culture pervades everything in a society, and war like it is no exception. You know, war is pretty cultural. And the way Russia fights wars, the way it always has, is just grinding your enemy into a fine dust and then just blowing them away. And that's what they've done. You know, just like just a little puff of air blowing their enemy away after grinding them into a fine dust. And that's what they've done not only to the Ukrainian military, but like the country as a whole. Like there's no women left in Ukraine. There's no young women left in Ukraine. They've all fled to like the EU and America and Canada and all that stuff. So there's no young women left. So the young men are kind of like, what the fuck am I? There's not going to be anything. Wait, I'm not going to be able to find a wife. I'm not going to be able to have kids. So it's like, what the fuck is the point of all this? Because all the women have left. There's no women left in Ukraine. Like, literally, it's insane how few women are actually still in Ukraine. Uh, and they've also Russia has like double the population of Ukraine, so there's that. You know, like people just and they just don't understand it. How Russia fights wars and how just cultural war is. So that's really all I had to say about it. Um, we're at an hour. I hope everyone listening has a good day, a good week, a good year, a good life. And I'll see you guys in the next episode. Ohio! I don't know if that's how you say bye in Japanese, but bye in Japanese.